And so, it begins. Dark were the skies and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shivering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strewn across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Plz. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks. Welcome to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. The date today is the 3rd of July, 2009. It is 8 p.m. BST. It is 3 p.m. EST. It is probably something like 12 in the afternoon PST. I don't know. I don't care. Only time zone that matters is right here and right now, and that will be an official time zone if I have anything to say about it. My name is TotalBiscuit. This is Blue Plz. What a show we have coming up for you today. Yes, we do. Ho, 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 ho. I love drama. I love drama so much, especially when the Americans do it, because they do it so well. Exodus and the mysterious Yogg-Saron kill. Or was it? I'll tell you a little bit about that later in the show. They made a little bit of a mistake. Let me put it that way. A little bit of a mistake. To be honest, the biggest mistake they made was not giving me a proper statement when I asked for one. Bad move. You'll find out why a little later on in the show. Also, Blizzard has allowed, or will allow you to change faction for a price. Question is, would you want to? Does it affect the game balance? Is it a slippery slope? All sorts of stuff like that. Why it's probably not as bad as you make it out to be. Also, just how important is it how our character looks? There have been whines, there have been complaints about Tier 9. We look back into the past, and in the past we will find various other instances of, hey, that looks really bad, yet it's got great stats on it. Do I have to wear it? Oh yes, tier sets. What are you doing? And we'll be talking about that a little bit later on in the show. And of course, your chance to contribute to this week's show. How do you do it, you might ask? Well, you have the opportunity in the illusion of choice. And in the illusion of choice, I will shatter your illusions of choice by choosing one, only one, of your potential topics for the last 15 or so minutes of the show. You can email themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com. And you get to choose, or attempt to. Now, I must apologise in advance if I'm sounding a little bit sniffly, maybe start a coughing fit in the middle of the show. I am not especially well. I am getting better. I'm good enough to do the show. I'll see how my voice manages to handle the rest of the show. And you know what? If I run out of voice halfway through the show, the rest of it will consist entirely of drop-ins. Or possibly old shows you probably won't notice. Maybe you will if I go back to 2005 ones that had the different music beds, and I'm talking about the brand new Instance Blackwing Lair. I don't know. That's the sad thing. I think probably half of the people that listen to WoW podcasts wouldn't realise that. Oh well, speaking of WoW podcasts, I have a rare pat on the head and congratulations that must go out to the one and only Starman and Renata of World of Warcast, who have reached their 4-year anniversary slightly after I did. So congratulations to them, you are still around. I am still waiting for the one episode where Starman actually gets riled about something, and the guy seems to be the most chill guy on the planet. So yeah, if you want an antidote to my show, you should go check them out. worldofwarcast.com. Right. Time to rummage. Yes. Scratch around, as it were. Stick in our hands and see what we pull out. It's this.
That sounds like it's mail time. Here's the mail.
It never fails.
It makes me want to wag
my tail.
When it comes,
I want to wail.
Yes, and it's the mail time, and a nice comment that has been made in the IRC channel. It's not swine flu, it's wine flu that I've contracted. Well, there has been a lot of whining, and I heard that it is contagious. It's entirely possible that I caught a little bit of wine flu. I think the best medicine is laughter and uncontrollable rage. Therefore, that is what is going to be happening. Right, in the mailbox this week, and a few interesting emails. Go on here that just came in from Urbu. Yes. And he says this: why twinking now until 3.2 is the same as the emblem change? Ah, a proposition, you might say. Perhaps a hypothesis or theorem. We shall see. He says, hey TB, you have numerous times said that twinking is okay and compared it to the way the gear progression works at level 80. However, there is a major difference between the two. The way the game works at level 80 is that you can have a lot better gear than the next guy, but in the end, you are still able to make a difference in PvP if you are a skilled player that has just reached the level cap. You aren't able to beat the people with the bleeding edge PvP gear, but that's fine, that's how gear progression should work. After all, this is an MMO we're talking about. But as mentioned, there is a big difference between level 80 PvP and low PvP. Currently, even if you are a very low-skilled player with average gear, or indeed a very skilled low-level player with average gear, you often get killed by twinks before you even have the chance to react. One shot, that is. This is because the Twink's gear is so massively better than the average player that the level 80 equivalent doesn't even compare to it, not by a long shot. Essentially, having a gear gap of this magnitude decimates another very important aspect of MMOs and games in general called skill. Now, I've always supported bad players getting demolished by good players. That is fine. That is how it should be. However, how the low-level PvP presently works is that there isn't much difference between good and bad players with average gear when compared to twinks, because they will get killed during a global cooldown or two all the same. I have no problems with getting outplayed by someone that is better at the game than I am, but in fact, indeed, the fact that I am being more skilled doesn't make a large difference against certain players is a very frustrating one. I appreciate it... something, reply to this, whatever. Thanks for reading the email. Yeah, well, I don't think that even remotely compares to the emblem change, let's be honest here. We're talking the emblem change and the problems that we have, the main problem with the emblem change. You know, I've got 15 separate problems, but a bit chain one hit me. Regarding the emblem change is the fact that you're rewarding bad players with good gear, yeah? In the case of low-level PvP, getting the gear you need to twink, you've got to work for it. And that gear isn't all that hard to acquire per se. It doesn't require skill to acquire, but it requires a lot of gold and a lot of running of dungeons and such. And that's fine, I'm okay with that. The thing is, you can't really balance PvP at low levels just because of the way that abilities scale. And that's just the way it is. Low-level PvP's never been balanced. It's not the first game where low-level PvP isn't balanced. I'll tell you another one that I played low-level PvP and that was Warhammer Online. Yep. Low-level PvP, bearing in mind it's a significantly more important part of the game, is really unbalanced. And that's just the way of it. You've just got to deal with it. Now, you might say that, hey, there's not a lot of skill involved, and I would agree, but to be honest, there isn't a lot of skill involved at that level anyway. You don't have enough variables for there to be a massive amount of skill involved. I mean, I don't really view PvP as a particularly skillful activity. Yeah, sure, there is some skill involved, like most things, but compared to other games, it's not really that tricky. At low level, where you've only got a couple of possible tactical options, really, how much skill is there involved in it? It doesn't matter if you've got the same gear as the other guy. There's just not an awful lot of skill involved. If as a rogue I have 5 skills, as opposed to level 80 where I have 30 or 40 or whatever, then I'm limited to what I can do. Yeah? It's like saying, well, okay, I can't aim in PvP, because that's just not in the game. So, say I'm playing an MMO version of Counter-Strike, and at low levels, I have 5 options, 4 of which involve shooting somebody. Yeah? And the 5th one involves missing somebody. So I get to choose between head, leg, arm, chest. To be honest, I'm still shooting the guy. It doesn't really matter what I use. I mean, I don't have a lot of tactical options available, you know? It's a bad analogy, I know, but it's just the point is, you just don't have enough tactical options for it to be skill-based. Hence, it is gear-based. That's just the way of it. I don't compare it. I can't see where the justification is to compare the two. There really isn't one, as far as I can tell. But anyway, thanks for sending the email in regardless. Now, I've got another email here from Joseph Mazur, and it's a response to last week's show, and he says, I had an idea that came to mind because of the discussion on the badge changes. He came back and said Blizzard wants to close the gear gap with basically a band-aid, and then you tied into how many guilds don't want to go back to Nax. I can relate. So my idea is, when they make new content, why doesn't Blizzard add extra bosses to raid instances to get players back in them? Example, Naxxramas. You have 4 wings in the last 2 bosses. Why not just add an extra area that has an extra boss after killing the bosses of the 4 wings, or the last 2 bosses, kind of like a heroic Gundrak? In normal mode, there is not a huge Oracle boss, but then in heroic mode, you get the option to kill an extra boss. It seems like a way to breathe life into an old raid while closing the gear gap. Lastly, no, I'm not saying stop developing new raid content, just that they should add bosses and wings to older raids in smaller patches. Sounds good on paper. Well, the problem with it sounding good on paper is quite simple. It's too much work. They won't do it as a direct result of that. What they like to do is show off new art assets and new stuff like that, because evidently they think that people seeing the inside of the instance and seeing the new art assets and stuff that it has to offer is vitally important. Yeah? Because they've already shown that they are willing to nerf and nerf and nerf again the content they have, just to get people inside the instance. So obviously they're not concerned about people having a challenge, they're more concerned about people seeing what pretties they have to offer. Going back in to see a new boss in Nax, well, yeah, I imagine it would get people back in there. The problem is you've then got to change the item level to get people interested in going back there. Yeah, a tier 8.5 raiding guild is not going to go back into Naxxramas to pick up gear that is item levels lower than what they're wearing, which means you have to have items levels higher, which then also means you have to proportionately increase the difficulty of the boss, which means that, as opposed to the system we proposed on last week's show, you get people saying, no, we're not taking the scrubs because we're trying new bosses that are harder and they're not geared for it. So it actually doesn't help close the gear gap at all. If anything, it promotes more segregation. Which again, segregation not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're going to repair it, you don't use something like that. Now, more emails. Yes, more emails coming in. I had an email here from Jordan Johnson, also known as Mr. NNJ, and he says this: Mr. Biscuit, as an avid role player in World of Warcraft. Ugh. Give it away. I talk to GMs regularly, mostly for reporting names, bots, arseholes, etc. One night recently I was chatting with a GM about my latest batch of reports. Wow, you have a batch? Do you have a filing cabinet full of these things? Yes. Go through the Dewey Decimal System that I have organised here. There's D7. Ah, yes. Mr. Schlobberknocker. Inappropriate name. Here's his file. Here's his rap sheet. I assume you'll do something about this, GMs, yes? You understand my meaning. You can pick up your payment tomorrow. Anyway, one night recently I was chatting with GM about my latest batch of reports when the following conversation took place. Details have been removed for GM's safety. I don't want them to lose their job. And he's got a transcription here, which I will attempt to enunciate in the most appropriate fashion imaginable. Well, he's an RPer, so let's make it a little bit appropriate. Forsooth! Well, that is all of thy names. Can I help you with anything? Well, over yonder, where can I find this creature of myth and legend, and I shall slay it for the glory of the townspeople. Sorry, but I'm not allowed to divulge that information. Ah! Verily, verily. Okay, I was just seeing if you knew where to find thy creature. Testing a GM, banned, lol. Besides, TotalBiscuit says I shouldn't talk about stuff I don't know. And he says that just blew me away. Anyway, people always cry in QQ about how the GMs are inept or jerks, but I have had nothing but friendly encounters with GMs. I don't know if it's because I'm professional and friendly towards the GMs. Oh, blowing your own trumpet there, aren't we? Yes, verily. Instead of lol Blaze you sucks, why you make dis hang to game, this is stupid. As I'm sure most of the populace is somewhat prone to do. Now that I have finally caught up with the live shows in the archives and listened to the entire Blue Plz, I'll be writing them more often, yeah. Here's the thing, a lot of GMs are just normal players. Yeah, I'm not going to dispute that it's cool that GMs and CMs and the occasional dev listens to Blue Plz. Indeed, I hope more devs start listening to this show and start taking some of the ideas on board. It is cool that GMs listen to it. I'm not going to dispute that. And to be honest, I've actually had positive experiences with GMs as well, most of the time. I don't recall all that many bad experiences with GMs, really. The only one that really stands out in my mind is when I reported myself for exploiting. And he's like, well, what seems to be the problem? I appear to be making money via enchanting. Okay. Obviously, this is an exploit, since this is usually impossible. I would suggest you ban me for 72 hours and fix this bug immediately. I don't understand what you're saying. It's like, he never played along. I was very upset by the whole thing. Oh, well, never mind. Yeah, GMs are generally pleasant people. I don't have a problem with them. You've just got to bear in mind that they are customer service representatives. And a lot of the stuff that they've got to deal with is from a script. And they will have varying degrees of knowledge. And it is a vast game. I mean, good God. You know, it is a vast game with massive numbers of different variables, and often the people that actually contact them are not very helpful. They don't properly describe their problem. They're just like, oh god, lol, please fix. That doesn't help matters. As someone who has worked in customer service in the past, and it is a very sobering experience, I might add. Customers generally suck. WoW players, no exception. So, you know, the GMs actually have a reasonably hard job dealing with people like that. Hopefully the show helps them out with that, because don't worry, there are plenty of us players that hate the guys just as much, if not more so, than you do. Don't worry. We know exactly what you're going through. We have to go through it on a daily basis, and we don't even get paid to deal with these people. It's horrendous. My name is TotalBiscuit, you're listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio. I'm going to play a little bit of music, then we're going to get back with a description of the brand new Hollywood motion picture, Exodus, and the Well of Tears. Oh yes. Drama, folks. In my element. Song coming up right now, it's Children of Bodom, Smile Pretty for the Devil. I'll be right back after this. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed due to copyright concerns. If you'd like to hear the music, tune in live on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That is 3 p.m. EST on WCRadio.com. Yes, indeed, folks, the sounds of Children of Bodom, and this is the sounds of Blue Plz here on WoW Radio, WCRadio.com. If you are not already in the IRC channel and you are listening live, fools! Yes, indeed, rc.mmorc.com, hash or pound, WoW Radio. Click the chat button on the top of the screen on WCRadio.com, whichever you prefer. Oh, I've been looking forward to this all week. I really have. Drama, folks, drama on the raiding front. Here's what's been going on. So, Exodus, a US guild, one of the better US guilds, managed to take down Yogg-Saron with no watchers, which, as a lot of you will be aware, is really hard. And by really hard, we mean numerically impossible, as mathematically proved by several guilds on the Elitist Jerks forum. Yeah? Not great. Yet they managed it. But how, you may ask? How did they manage such a feat? Well, the way they managed such a feat was to deliberately cause the mobs to evade. Yeah? We're talking about the mobs which generally kill you hard, and you have to deal with all of these ads in a certain phase of Yogg-Saron. But they were able to cause it to evade, and that was a replicatable bug. They discovered it the first time, and then they went and did it again. Using this, they were able to kill Yogg-Saron with 0 watchers. Not only that, but thankfully, for all of us who, of course, may have doubted their achievement, they recorded it in high definition and posted it on YouTube. And then got banned. And then cried about it. Shock horror. Oh no, you posted evidence of you deliberately exploiting the game on YouTube in high definition so everyone could see, on the front page, proclaiming world first. And then you got surprised when you got banned. Indeed, the guys actually said so. We are so gonna get banned for this in chat. Oh look, you got banned for it. There's a frickin' shocker. Well done. Very well done. Hand caught in the cookie jar much? I mean, this isn't just a case of hand caught in the cookie jar. This is getting into the room, getting your hand into the cookie jar, and having someone else set up a camera while holding a sign that says, hey guys, our hand is in the cookie jar, here's video proof if you don't believe us, please don't get mad. That's how ridiculous it is. Now, of course, it goes further than that, because being an American Uber Guild, just bear this in mind, not all American Uber Guilds are bad, yeah? Uber Guilds, generally speaking, and I'm talking in general here, do have something of an elitist complex. But the US raiding scene, for quite some time, has had issue with the fact that they constantly fail to get world first, and EU guilds get the world first. And, of course, the excuses for this range from the sublime to the ridiculous, including Europe is a welfare state, therefore everyone is able to stay at home playing WoW, and that's how they beat us. Which is interesting because that doesn't quite seem to apply when the US guilds seem to manage to play for longer and yet still don't get the world first. For instance, how would welfare state exactly? Let's just assume that Insidia were able to stay at home 24 hours a day and play WoW. How exactly does that help them in a boss where you can only do 1 hour a week? And of course I'm referring to Algernon. Why is it exactly that Insidia managed to get the Algernon world first and an American guild didn't? Why is that exactly? You want to explain that to me? Particularly bearing in mind, of course, that the reset for the US guilds happens on a Tuesday, whereas the reset for the EU guilds happens on a Wednesday, meaning that the US players get almost a full 24 hours of raiding time that they could go and take the shot at Algernon to try and get the world first. And indeed, this applies to, every freaking boss and every change that gets made. Why is it that the US guilds constantly fail to make that world first? Why is it, regardless of those advantages? I can't imagine. Well, indeed I can imagine. It's not for the ridiculous excuses that some of the sycophantic US raiders come up with, including such ridiculous things as the King of Dubai pays off Blizzard, so Blizzard makes the fight so that Insidia / Nihilum / SK / whatever EU guild is kicking our ass today can do them, and Blizzard sabotages our efforts. Usually I'd say, haha, that's kind of funny, but there are US players that actually believe this. Now, this is, of course, we're talking about the land where people actually watch Glenn Beck. And those of you who don't know what Glenn Beck is the guy that thinks the best way to fix America would be another terrorist attack where people died. This is the same country, so you can sort of understand that attitude. However, Exodus, being the silly bastards that they are, decided, no, we're not going to go down quietly on this one. We're going to post a whiny tirade on the front of our guild website. Of course, showing us the video whereby they say we are so going to get banned. Oh, look, here's video evidence of us cheating. And then whining and complaining about Insidia, of all people, with a small list of things saying, oh, Insidia exploited here, and here, with no evidence whatsoever to prove any of it. Nice one, guys. Way to deflect. Let's go accuse another guild for no apparent reason. Let's go slander another guild just because we got our hands caught in the cookie jar. And as opposed to actually taking our lumps and accepting, hey guys, we screwed up. Sorry. We screwed up. We exploited. We shouldn't have. We got banned. That's okay. We're sorry. This is not a good example to set for people. Yeah, the fight is mathematically impossible. This is something Blizzard should look into. This is something that they never mentioned anywhere. Yeah? I mean, it's just absolutely stupid. You can look at the description right here, what they've got on their front page, which is exo-guild.com. It's like, yes, it's 100% our fault for using a bug in a significant boss fight. However, I would say there are some absolute factors to go off here that kind of forced us into it. You wouldn't have to use this technique to kill this encounter if it was actually killable to begin with. Here's an idea. Maybe it wasn't supposed to be killable at your current gear level. Did that never cross your mind? It's like, hey, let's use these bugs to kill it. And then they go on to accuse Insidia of using bugs and exploits. Right, okay, here's the main exploit they are accusing Insidia of using. And that's another previously unkillable, supposedly hard mode, which was Hodia in 2 minutes. And the way that Insidia did it was to spell steal a damage buff. Yeah? The damage buff specifically being what we call the pollinate or flower power buff, as it's colloquially known, which now cannot be spell stolen anymore, from Freya's room. They brought the little ads along, got the buffs, and used the extra DPS to kill the boss. What's the difference, you might ask? What's the difference between that? Are they both exploits? Well, one is a completely legitimate mechanic, and one never is. causing mobs to evade in any respect is not a legitimate mechanic. You know why evade was put into the game? It was to deal with those situations where the mobs could not properly path. It was to stop you, indeed, for getting into such a position where you could go and do damage to mobs where they couldn't damage you back. So evade was put in there. That was their only fix. That was the only way they could do it. Evade, causing evades deliberately in a fight, has always been an exploit. It happened in Zul'Gurub Rub, and those who did it deliberately got banned then as well, if you recall. It's not the first time it's happened, I'm sure it won't be the last. What's the difference between that and the flower power buff? Well, it's rather obvious. There are a number of occasions where spell stealing a buff has resulted in unintended consequences. Now, in this case, the unintended consequence, of course, was to increase the DPS beyond the normal. But it wouldn't be the first time that a buff has been used in such a way to give an advantage. I cite as my example the clever mechanic of mind-controlling a certain mob down in LBRS to get a fire resistance buff to help you out with, I believe it was Veilstraz it was specifically used on, and of course for Ragnaros as well. That was considered a clever use of mechanics and left in the game. Now, to me, as a mage, spell stealing is a legitimate mechanic. It's as simple as that. Now, if you call spell stealing an exploit, then I really don't know what to tell you. And of course, you're going to come back with me and say, oh, well, TotalBiscuit, that guy who soloed the military wing with the spell steal thing got banned. Yeah, you know what he got banned for? Market exploitation. That's specifically the ban reason. Market exploitation. That is why he got banned. He was not banned for spell stealing. He was banned for market exploitation. And of course the bug was then fixed, because that's what Blizzard decided to do. They decided not to let you do that, and they decided not to let you do that with Freya either. Now, Insidia never claimed that oh dear hard mode kill was legit, and indeed they sent all the reports and the logs, and I have a statement here that was given to me by Mech from Insidia detailing some of these accusations. Now, of course, he had the common sense to actually give me something like this, as opposed to Exodus, who put out an official statement which reads like a 12-year-old on the GameFAQs forum crying that he can't get the latest Pokemon. Now, I shall load this up for you, which is inexplicably loading in Office Word 2007, which is probably going to take about half an hour. Terrible program, you should never ever get it. Get an old version. It is ridiculous to think that they imagine they could get away with just slandering another guild like this. Now, he goes on to say, this is from Mech, the first one is Vash. That was Nihilum, and it bugged out and went from 12% to 1 HP or something like that. I don't know the specifics, but they said immediately when they killed it that that's what happened. Right? That's an accusation that was made by Exodus towards Nihilum, saying, oh, the Vash kill wasn't legit. They already accepted the Vash kill wasn't legit, and it wasn't a bug that they deliberately replicated. It's not the same bloody thing. And again, not the same bloody thing, the Mimiron thing. Another quote from Mech. Mimiron is some Judgment of Light thing, I think. You should PM Zem for that information, but as far as I'm aware, it's totally random and could even happen with one pally in the raid. Didn't even happen on the hard part of the fight in the movie as far as I remember. And he also says regarding Hodia, we said what we did openly, and we said immediately it was not a legit kill. We immediately mailed Blizzard. I'm sure they checked our logs. If they thought it was exploiting, they would have banned us. And that's how it goes. So yeah, JOL lies, because JOL is a random bug, and indeed any raider who knows what the hell they're talking about will know that the Double Judgment of Light bug is just that, a bug that is not immediately replicatable. It's pretty much random, it can happen at any possible time, and if it happens, it happens. There's not an awful lot you can do about that. And I've got two other accusations on here regarding the disgusting Oozling pushing off debuffs on Cthulhu and the Twin Emperors, and their evidence for the fact that apparently on the Twin Emps, Kungan exploited it by sitting on a torch. And their evidence of this is that there was no video of the fight. Really? That's your evidence? There was no video of the fight. Let me remind you of something. Back in the day, videos of fights were not especially common. At all. Why? Because guilds actually had this whole thing where they wouldn't show everyone just how to do the fight straight away. I don't even remember them being a Cthulhu video. I don't remember anything past Huhuran, because I know they did a AQ40 the movie, and it didn't have twins in it. I don't believe it didn't have Oro in it, because that I'm being killed. Yeah, it didn't have might have had Viscidius, I can't recall, and it didn't have Cthulhu in it. I'm sorry, that is not evidence. Now here's my big beef with this. you are crying. I'm sorry, you are crying your eyes out. You are bawling over this whole thing. Trying to accuse other guilds like, oh god, they exploited too. Yeah, you know what? Maybe they did. You don't have evidence of that, but maybe they did. I have no doubts in my mind that various super guilds have exploited at various points in time. The difference is they're better at it because they didn't get caught. They're not stupid enough to put it in high definition on the freaking internet. I mean, for God's sake, what the hell did you think was going to happen? Now, what really gets me is the fact that they were claiming, oh, well, it was kind of random. It was RNG, it was luck of the draw, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm sorry, you exploited, you cheated fair and square, and you brought the entire raiding scene into disrepute. And as a result, I cannot have any sympathy with Exodus whatsoever. This is the kind of crap that the raiding scene gets accused of all the time. Oh, they're just a bunch of power gaming elitists that'll do anything to win. Yeah? Even if it requires abusing mechanics and other players and all manner of things like that. Yeah, well, thanks. You just proved that apparently that's true. Well done. Dragging the entire US raiding scene down. Oh, look, the only world first that the US have got in the past X number of months/years involved cheating. Well done. And well done stirring up the pot of racism and xenophobia. Well done on that one. Here is the facts, right? Here's the reality of the situation, America. Sorry about this, here's how it goes. You're not very good at a lot of things. You're in fact really bad at a lot of things. I mean, how many sports do you constantly fail to get anywhere in? Here is the news flash for those who do not know. You're not perfect. And there's always got to be a number one, and that number one just happens to not reside in the United States of America. It certainly wouldn't be the first time, and it's definitely not going to be the last. So stirring up this crap with the xenophobia, it's like, oh, EU players suck, oh, EU players are all cheaters, blah, blah, blah. Pot calling the kettle black, freaking hypocritical. It's a disgrace. Now let me tell you this. Here's the real beef I've got with it. The biggest beef I've got with this is the fact that they spent 90% of their post crying about Insidia and couldn't get the testicular fortitude to confront the real criminals in this particular instance, which is, of course, Blizzard for having that there in the first place. I'm sorry, but this exploit seems obvious. It really does. I could have spotted this. Most smart players could have spotted that this would have happened. So why exactly did Blizzard not spot it? Why was this not caught in playtesting? And why the hell aren't you blaming Blizzard as opposed to everyone else under the sun and crying your ass out because they're meanies? Grow that up. Seriously. Grow up. If you're going to get involved in competitive raiding, here's an idea. Start at home with the Bushido. And don't accuse other guilds of things that you cannot prove. It's childish, and it's freaking pointless. It brings the entire scene into disrepute, and you get a slash spit as a direct result of that. You snivelling cowards. My name is TotalBiscuit. You're listening to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. So good, we say it twice. Megadeth, angry again. Enjoy.
You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed due to copyright concerns. If you'd like to hear the music, tune in live on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That is 3 p.m. EST on WCRadio.com.
Yes, indeed, folks. You know what? I'm not done on this whole thing. Seriously, I got way more to talk about on this particular issue, so I'm going to do what I rarely ever do and allow a topic to overflow into a second segment for a little while. Let me just tell you why posts like this on the Exodus front page are just bad for the game in general. Here's the problem with the community, yeah? The community. I put that in air commas, as they call it, inverted commas, just saying the community. Yes. It doesn't really exist. Alright, we already know that. But what I will say about the player base in general is that they are the most ineffectual bunch of lumps I have ever seen. This is the player base in general. Why do you think all of this stupid stuff ends up happening in WoW that we really can't do an awful lot about? Let me tell you why that is. Because there are only a precious few groups of people that actually get listened to within the WoW community. And everybody else is too busy being at each other's throats to get anything done. I mean, for instance, this whole Yogg-Saron thing, and indeed the Hodir thing as well. and the other bugs that we can find in there. Crap has been going on for the past 5 years, right? And the top tier of raiding guilds has always had to endure this rubbish. Yeah, they've constantly had to endure this rubbish. They've been on the PTRs, banging their heads against content they don't want to do right then, because it gets boring by the time they get onto the live servers. But they've got to. They don't have a choice in the matter, because otherwise the damn stuff will not work. Because Blizzard can't test their own game. Therein lies the problem. They get Uber guilds to do it. They can't test, they can't balance, they can't tune for nuts. And they've been doing it for 5 years, and they still can't do it. Why are you not furious about that? And more to the point, why are you spending all your time bitching and whining about other guilds, as opposed to bitching and whining at the people who are causing the problems in the first place, who are of course Blizzard's instance design team? This is why we can't get anything done. Because you're too busy at each other's throats to form a unified front. You got the friggin' Berlin Wall apparently floating in the middle of the Atlantic between the US and the EU, who cannot possibly agree on anything. Because the US views the EU as a bunch of frickin' social commie welfare states, and we view the US as a bunch of dunder-headed, boulder-dashing, arrogant bastards. Warmongering arrogant bastards, I might add. We can't get anything done because you guys can't put down the frickin' handbags. Grow up, every single last one of you. Grow the hell up. You want to be effectual? You want changes that matter? You want to hold Blizzard to account? Then try not being viewed by Blizzard as a bunch of 7-year-olds fighting over toys and cookies. It's pathetic. Absolutely freaking pathetic. Posts like that on the front page of and quoted as an official statement, no less. Official statement. You wouldn't know the meaning of the word. You're more of a PR disaster than I am, and I go out of my way to be a PR disaster. It's kind of part of my modus operandi. And indeed, I actually screwed that up. My modus operandi. Brand new Latin words, courtesy of Blue Plz. Decipher it and get a prize. That's what I do. I'm a shock jock. Get people annoyed, riled up. Shout at people a lot, rant a bit. People find it entertaining. That's what I do. And yet I can't make as much of a fool of myself as Exodus managed to this week. Official statement, my arse. That wouldn't be out of place on Something Awful's YCS forum. It's drama, pure strained drama. Bloody pathetic. Grow up. Anyway, I think we're done with that topic, so let's get on to another one. Drama, of course, being the theme of this week's show. We've got more drama coming in the form of a new change that has been proposed, as it were, by Blizzard. Something they're going to be implementing in the not-too-distant future. You can find out about this by heading over to MMO Champion, which is my premier source for news, I must say. Big fan of MMO Champion, like it very much. And there's a nice Q&A there about switching sides. Yes, the Switcher movie finally coming true, apparently. And what it's going to allow you to do is switch faction with your current character. Now, we didn't know an awful lot about this until the faction change Q&A came up on the 1st of July. And there's a number of interesting questions. The ones that really came to mind for me were, would you be able to pick which race you changed into? And the answer was yes, but you were restricted to the same kind of class limit, so no gnome druids. Sorry, Dunkor. Now, your dreams have been shattered in that regard. Now, I do not really find this change to be anything too much to worry about. There's a lot of rage going on about it, there's a lot of anger saying, oh, Blizzard said they'd never do this, blah, blah. Well, they really didn't, actually. I don't recall a single instance of that being said. It is a service that evidently people want. It's a service that Blizzard can make money off of. And, you know, just bear this in mind. We can try and hold Blizzard accountable all we damn well please, but all we can really do is vote with our feet and be responsible consumers. Because Blizzard is a company and they're out to make as much money as possible, particularly with their new boss. The new boss of Blizzard Activision sounds like a right knobend. Literally, exploit our franchises for maximum profit potential, har har. Yeah, don't mind if you alienate your freaking core fanbase in the process. We don't need them, right? Just develop something for the Wii. I can imagine that. Warcraft Wii Sports. Swing your Frostmourne and hit Murlocs. That'd be kind of fun, actually. Now, there's not an awful lot to say about the FAQ other than the fact that there will be mechanisms in place to stop balance issues, yeah? Population balance. So you can't empty a side of Alliance. That's just not going to happen, or Horde as it happens. Also, you're not going to be able to switch willy-nilly. There is going to be a limit on the frequency of which players can change their faction. Reputation, gear, and mounts, etc. Quote, we'll have more details available at a later point in time, though we plan to keep those as close to a reflection of the other faction as much as possible. Which is interesting, because that indicates to me that if you're switching from Alliance to Horde, and you had a human character, that you might end up actually losing rep. It's possible. They might reduce the rep. Now, there are a number of concerns with this particular change, and of course the first concern is ZOMG Flavour of the Month. Now, this is the first transfer change that has allowed you to gain a specific advantage in-game, and this is why it's a bit controversial. Now, that advantage is not very big, but I do foresee a problem here. And the problem is simply this. Racials don't really affect the game all that much, but they are a differentiating factor, particularly in PvP. Now, what I can see happening is a Flavour of the Month issue, whereby if a racial gets buffed or a racial gets nerfed, you have a bunch of people moving to the other faction to pick up the better racials, particularly arena teams and stuff like that. I don't think this is going to be so much of an issue for PvEers, but for PvPers, I can see that happening quite a bit. Is that a big deal? It could be. The threat, in my opinion, is that if players do this too much, it's going to be an excuse for Blizzard, and I think they've been looking for this for a while, to homogenize racials even more than they already are, because racials are a bit of a pain to balance. Racials consist of asymmetric balancing. Now, we already know that Blizzard in WoW doesn't like asymmetric balancing. They removed a lot of their asymmetric balance with the homogenization of classes, and of course the introduction of Paladins to Horde side and Shamans to Alliance. It's like, hey, we can't deal with the balance, so we're just going to get rid of it altogether. We're just going to eliminate the issue. Take the asymmetry away, and we've got two sides that are pretty much identical. Except they've got racials, which makes them a little bit different. And indeed, of course, they then went and spread out the priest racials, so they don't have to deal with that as regards to asymmetric balancing anymore. And now all they've really got left in terms of asymmetric balance is the racials. The generic racials. If this is used as an excuse to kill that, well, I will be rather annoyed, because to me, the choice of a race should be more than mere cosmetics. I've always believed that. I always believe that racials should be more powerful and more diverse, not less. There are other games that do races way, way better than WoW does. Really. This is why I viewed the release of those two... Sorry about that. The two new races in TBC is not particularly great. Because it wasn't really new content, it was just new cosmetic content. It was a new skin, a new model, a new set of dancers, and voice emotes. Nothing particularly fancy or special there, in terms of the content. So I just don't want to see that happening. Now, on the subject of giving players an advantage, particularly if you say, oh, well, they're all going to level as human, then switch over, I don't really see it as a big issue, honestly. Okay, so they get 10% extra rep. Big deal. Who cares? It doesn't really affect you in any possible respect. The stuff that matters, i.e. the competition, is at the high end of PvE and the high end of PvP. Getting extra rep doesn't really help you in either. Rep has been pretty much eliminated as a source of reasonable PvE gear, and rep does not matter in high-end PvP, because of course rep does not affect arena play in any respect. Doesn't affect Winter Grasp either, and let's face it, who the hell actually got an item from the vendors for the Battlegrounds past level 60? I mean, come on. All of those items were never updated, they're useless. So is that an issue? Honestly, if someone wants to level up that way, then just let them. Really? Who cares? Does it matter? No. I suppose, again, the only problem that I really see with it is the fact of switching over. Like, for instance, if I wasn't kind of bound to the Horde right now, if I wasn't, you know, a big fan of my troll, what I would do is change my mage to a gnome. And the reason I change it for a gnome, well, 5% extra int. Honestly. One of the best mage racials in the game. Or I could change it to a Draenei, because I get an extra +1 hit. And there are certain class and race combinations that are clearly superior to others. Yeah? Clearly superior. So, while this doesn't allow you to change race on your side, it does allow you to go to the other side. And then, of course, if you want to deal with the cooldown, you can then go back. Will many players do it? I don't think so. I think it's going to be a minority of players that do that, a minority of min-maxers. Will it affect the game in a specific respect? No. Is it a slippery slope? I think there's the question we really have. You know, slippery slope is often a rather fallacious argument. The point has been made that past performance is not necessarily an indicator of future results. Then again, Octil and Hordak have also made the point that past performance is, in fact, in some cases, a good indicator of future results. Yes, it can happen. If you have precedent, then yes, absolutely. But I've yet to see Blizzard come up with something that's really going to screw things over. I think giving people the option of how to play is a good thing. Of course, the reason for it is to make more money. But at least they're providing a service for that money and not charging for something that you could have already done. It's something new with a one-off payment. Why get so riled up about it? It seems to me there's far more important things to worry about. You know, the game itself right now is running itself into a bit of a rut. Yeah? The new content in 3.2 looks rather uninspired, at least the PvE content does. The PvP content looks great. If I was actually a PvPer, I'd go in there. And indeed, I might end up being a PvPer. You know, if they've got a new set of items and a reputation system built into that, hell yeah. You know, I'm all over the Isle of Conquest. That looks great. Why not? But the other stuff, that's stuff that I've got a concern about, and I'm not going to be distracted by smoke and mirrors like this. Well, the conspiracy theorist in me comes up with the idea that they introduce stuff like this because they know it's going to be controversial, and it takes attention away from lackluster stuff that's coming up. I mean, the Colosseum, to me, is an absolute lackluster instance by the looks of it. And I'll be talking about it in the next section. So, you put in something like, hey, you can change your faction over the other side, and then a million voices suddenly cry out in terror, and the nerd rage spills over the forums for no apparent reason whatsoever. It's very easy to complain and say, oh, Blizzard, such money grabbers, blah, 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 ruining the game. Well, yeah, they're money grabbers, they're a company. That's what they do. That's what companies do. They're not charity. If they can work out a way to squeeze more money out of you without saying, hey, let's increase the subscription price and make people leave en masse, then they will do it. You know, these bolt-ons, these one-off services, they make a lot of extra money that way. And yeah, you might say they've got enough money, but, sorry, a company never has enough money. Never. And people come up with this and say, oh, they're ruining the game. How exactly? Describe to me how this could possibly ruin the game in any possible way. Other than the whole thing that I've just mentioned about Flavor of the Month classes, Flavor of the Month races specifically, class-race combinations. That may affect PvP somewhat. That may affect the balance of certain arena teams. But I don't see it being a massive issue. Not at all. So let them do it. Why not? Let them put it in there, and you know what? Don't like it. There's one way to express your discontent. Don't buy it. Simple as that. My name's TotalBiscuit. You listen to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio. When we come back after the break, we're talking about Tier 9 and how it doesn't look so great. Identikit players, we shall see. I'll be right back after this, folks. Enjoy.
You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz. Music was removed due to copyright concerns. If you'd like to hear the music, tune in live on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That is 3 p.m. EST on WCRadio.com.
Yes, indeed, folks. You're tuning to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. Yes, indeed. I've got a couple of emails here. I've got one about the WoW faction change, so I'm going to read that before we get on to the next topic. Some sort of level 80 mage and Nordrasil EU. He says this: as you were talking about the WoW faction change, it got me thinking. I think it would be a very good idea, rather than pay and change race, to make it so you pay the fee, which unlocks a quest in the game. You would have to do something for, say, the undead, and that would bring you to betraying your own faction. I could see it being a very good quest line, and would be a much better thing to do rather than just change. It would be nice, you know? It would be nice, like, hey, look, the Horde has humans now, or whatever, and just... I don't know, that would be kind of a cool dynamic. I think there's RP possibilities. You know, treasure the thought. Also got one about Exodus here, and it's from Lauren Rude, and he or she says this: I was listening to your show, and the whole time I was drawn back to EQ1 days. EverQuest's third expansion, Guards of Velius, had one of their first scripted events on the last fight in a dungeon called Sleeper's Tomb. The setup was 4 dragons or warders had another dragon, the Sleeper, locked up. Guilds on all servers were able to kill the first 3 warders, but for a long time were banging their heads against the wall on the last one. A guild, and I can't remember the name of them for the life of me, exploited a Zen-Axis bub to pop the 4th warder. I can't remember all the details, but basically they used a pally with some sort of item that did a complete health heal and drug the final warder on top of a shallow bridge, put the paladin underneath the bridge and put all the aggro on the pally by spamming the item. The dragon apparently couldn't attack through the bridge and they dropped the warder. My understanding was EQ didn't have the entire script finished for the zone because of all sorts of obvious things that happened when the final warder dropped, but this final warder was supposed to be a huge cock block while they finished the script. Sony had 5 GMs in the zone watching the entire fight, but they were invisible and not showing up on the zone list. Needless to say, the guild got banned and a ton of controversy ensued, like this Exodus stuff. That's actually very similar, because the way that Exodus actually exploited this was they had a healer spam inside the... whatever it is, it's the dream state kind of area. Whatever it is, it's an off-map area. Yeah, that's how the Yorks are on fight, so I'm not going to spoil it for those of you who haven't done it. And they kept doing that, and they got aggro by spamming the heals, but the mobs, of course, couldn't attack the healer, so all they did was evade bug and just stood there. Obvious exploit. But yeah, it does sound kind of similar. And yes, I'm glad they did get banned. Admittedly, I don't like deliberate cock blocks. You know, I think that's kind of cheap. But we can also come to the conclusion, perhaps, that Yogg Zero was not supposed to be killed with the kind of gear that we have right now. It's entirely possible. Whether or not that should be the case, well, that's another discussion for another time, and you know what, we might cover it on a future show. But whatever the case, Blizzard do need to be asked the question, why the hell was the fight like this to begin with, where people would willingly take such desperate measures? You know, as bastard cheaters that they are, xenophobic, racist, bastard cheaters that Exodus obviously happen to be, you know, and don't say I'm misconstruing anything or slandering them or accusing them of whatever, because I took all that from their front page post, their official statement, they at least had some vague excuse for doing what they were doing. Vague excuse. You know, certainly not going to defend them, but come on. Why make an encounter like that? At least be official as to whether or not you're supposed to be able to kill that fight with the current level of gear that we have. Right. Now, got more stuff to talk about, so I better get right on with it. Now, this is... well, I've received a number of emails about this, so I can basically paraphrase them into one. Regarding Tier 9. Now, here's the first stupid thing about Tier 9, and this links in quite nicely to last week. More drama, thanks to badge changes. Confirmed. By running normal Utgarde Keep, you're going to be able to get an entire set of Tier 9. And you might think that's hyperbole. It isn't. I'm really sorry to tell you this, it's not hyperbole. You can actually do it. All of the Tier 9 pieces will be available for purchase with Emblems of Triumph, meaning you can get the entire set. Now, how do you get Emblems of Triumph? Well, there's the proper way, by killing content that actually, you know, deserves that kind of level of gear, and there's the cheap, scrubby way, which is doing daily quests which reward the emblems, and you can get 3 of these things a day. Now, I honestly don't care whether or not it takes you 5 minutes or a million years to get this gear. You don't deserve it, period. If all you do is run those instances, you do not deserve a set of Tier 9. God. And what are you talking about? Why would you deserve that? I can't figure it out. I was gobsmacked by that. Absolutely gobsmacked. Did Blizzard even engage their brains these days? It's like, hey, right, you know what, let's just give in to the whiners. Happy money. We gotta make everyone happy. Gotta make all the scrubs happy, keep them playing. Endgame guys know more about MMOs. They're likely to go and play other games, because they realise the potential of other MMOs. Not the scrubs. The scrubs are going to play this game because they don't know any better. So better keep them happy. Give them free Tier 9. Here you go. Go run some Utgarde Keep. Really hard. Maybe some Azul Narub. Go and have a look at Mr. Anubarak and see whether or not Agile Naroob was merely a setback. Don't even get me started on that crap, good lord. And I can understand the TotalBiscuit Keep thing. I mean, he wasn't dead, but I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure I killed the Nubarak. Pretty sure. I'm extremely sure, in fact, that I killed the Nubarak. Why exactly is he coming back? I mean, come on. What, do we just knock him out a little bit? You know? Oh, KO! And then he gets thrown in a net and dragged back to the Colosseum. Come on! Really? Don't be ridiculous. So stupid. Anyway. Tier 9. That was the one complaint about Tier 9, but oddly enough, the main complaints that I've been getting via email and Twitter and such things are actually about the way Tier 9 looks, as opposed to the fact that any scrub who runs a bunch of dailies can get a full set of Tier 9 for absolutely nothing whatsoever. Really shows the priorities of the community, yes. True golf club there, well done. Right. Tier 9 apparently looks terrible, and you can check out the looks on MMO Champion. Now, I was looking at it, and it looks pretty good, but here's the thing. It's not a full set of items, yeah? It's not like each class has a full different set. You've got these sets which look relatively similar. Yeah, let's compare. The Alliance Priest and the Alliance Warlock, yeah? They look exactly the same, except one is a slightly different colour to the other. Same with Alliance Mage. Also looks the same. But it's got magey colours. Lazy. That's one way of putting it. So, you've got a generic cloth set. You've got your Hunter set, which looks unique, actually. Evidently, the Hunters actually get a unique set. And I imagine probably not. I imagine they probably share it with the Shamans, but I can't see any proof of that on here. The Rogues and Druids get the same set. So you basically got a set of plate, a set of leather, a set of mail, and a set of cloth. And they're themed Alliance and Horde. Now, I can understand that, really, but wow, how dull. Honestly. It's not the first time this has happened, though. You've got to bear this in mind. There have been a number of sets that have looked absolutely terrible and are blatantly just either placeholder models or Blizzard just couldn't be bothered to generate anything good. Prime example. Pretty much all of the cloth armor in AQ40. Yeah, I'm talking Enigma, I'm talking Doomcaller, also known as the little spikes on the shoulder set. They looked so bad, you have no idea. There were some better sets in there. I mean, the plate one was okay, but jeez. The cloth set looked absolutely abysmal. And Sunwell as well. Now, the tiered stuff in Sunwell, of course, was minor stuff like boots, because they expanded the set to 8 pieces. Tier 6, they expanded to 8 pieces. But there were also a bunch of non-set items, and particularly the shoulders is what I had a look at on Wowhide. If you have a look at all the shoulders in Sunwell Plateau, they all share the model of the Brutal Gladiator's shoulders. Every single last one of them. And bear in mind, of course, the shoulders are one of the most prominent items. You know, they're very, very visual, more visual than perhaps anything else you wear. So, having that share with PvP gear of all things, that got a few complaints back in the day as well. It's like, hey, we just beat Kill Jaden and we've got gear that looks like we've been doing PvP. And of course the same thing happened with PvP gear back in the Burning Crusade in general. We just look at, say, Season 1 Gladiators gear. It was a recolored Tier 4, then we had a recolored Tier 5, then a recolored Tier 6. And then we had what was effectively Tier 7 level gear, also recolored in Season 4. That's just the way it worked. Now, it doesn't work that way in, at least as far as I can tell anyway, it hasn't worked that way in Wrath. I haven't seen any blatant copies there. You know, we don't get a recolored version of Frostfire or whatever in Arenas. They've actually differentiated the gear somewhat. And you can say whatever you like about the PvP gear not looking all that great, but at least they've made the distinction. And this is getting a lot of complaints. Now, there's a couple of issues that I've got with it. The first one is, do people legitimately have the right to complain about this, particularly considering previous instances? And I think the answer is yes. I mean, people complained about the Tier 2, it was a Tier 2.5 it was called, and people also complained about the Sunwell stuff. Were they right to do so? Well, yeah. I'm sorry, if you get a latest piece of shiny static gear, the last thing you want it to look like is that it's been made out of paper mache. And that's what Enigma and all that other stuff did. It's like I built something out of Play-Doh and stick it on my shoulders, little spikes in there. Maybe get a pencil and start sticking holes in it. Yeah, that was artistic when I was 3 years old, not really anymore. The problem is, right, that there's not enough in the game to differentiate people already. This is something that's particularly problematic with Wrath, because everyone and their mother has at least tier 7. At least tier 7. So you've got everybody. You can't really flounce around in tier 7 or 7.5 or whatever and look proud in it because everyone and their mother's got it. And that's what's going to happen with Ulduar as well when the badge changes come in. And here's the big deal. Now it is going to be multiplied, it's going to be magnified. It's going to have so many people looking exactly the same because everyone can now get tier 9. Everybody. So there's not going to be a single person, unless they're incredibly lazy, that is not looking the same as everyone else. Really. All of these pieces, you can just look at them right now. Now imagine a world where everyone looks like this. Imagine a world where you only have 4 different ways of looking, and it depends on what armor type you're wearing. Every mage is going to look like that. Every priest, every hunter, every shaman, every death knight. All of them are going to look like that, because the combination of allowing you to get a full set of tier 9 for doing dailies, and the fact that all of the sets basically look the same, is going to mean that your entire raid, and indeed the entire contents of every city, is going to look identical. There is nothing to differentiate people. Now the question is, should that matter to you? So arguments have been made that the idea is you're being issued military level gear. You are the military. You're being prepared by the Argent Crusade to go and invade Icecrown. Military feel. Well, I don't care. Honestly, that's RP lore crap. I don't care about that. What I care about is looking unique, because the avatar represents all of the work that you've put into the game, right? And how your avatar looks is important, because you've invested a lot of time. And if you've got a really cool piece of gear, you want to be able to show it off. And the best way to show it off is, of course, the visual impact. Now, if everyone looks the same, you can't really show that off, can you? That's why people try and get individual-looking mounts and stuff like that. We'll go through hell and high water for such a thing. They really do. It really matters to them. And you might think it's a little bit silly, but me as a raider, yeah, it actually does matter that my character looks relatively unique. Now, of course, I have an advantage because I'm a troll, and only the top 3% of the player base plays troll. That's a valid statistic, and go look it up. So, there's not an awful lot of trolls, and not an awful lot of them look like me. But it's just upsetting to think that every mage in the game is going to have these damn shoulders. Every mage in the game is going to wear this robe, but thank God they put a robe in this time instead of that freaking pyjama set that they put in for tier 8.5. So yeah, you do have the right to be bothered by that. They look nice. Don't get me wrong, and I understand that Blizzard are, saving resources, but the problem with the Colosseum is that the Colosseum in general looks like a slapdash job. It's the first major raid instance, in fact it's the first raid instance period, that they've put in the game that doesn't have a bunch of really cool lore surrounding it, and is full of villains, yeah? It's not a lair, yeah? Every instance up until now has been a lair, yeah? Mount Hyjal had Archimonde in it. Black Temple, Illidan in it. Ragnaros was in Molten Core. Nefarian's lair, Blackwing lair. Oh look, lair. All of them, from the smallest to the largest, they were lairs in one way or another. The Colosseum is the first one that isn't. And there's not a good reason for that either. It's just an arena. It's a sporting event, as it were. So, that's the problem I've got with the Colosseum. You've got an instance which signifies and represents generic in every possible way. Yeah? The whole place looks generic. Hopefully the bosses won't be generic, although from the looks of it, it's like, hey, it's a giant worm. Woo, haven't fought those before. The setting is generic, and it's not a lair. So you don't get that epic feel. And yes, the epic feel matters. Of course it does. That's half of the reason people raid, to get that epic feel of killing an epic boss, and then they get the epic loot. If they don't get the epic feel because all they're in is a sporting arena, well, they might as well go do PvP. The whole point is to raid epic bosses, get epic loot, and look different to everyone else. Not the same. I might just stick with my 7.5. My name is TotalBiscuit. Listen to Blue Plz here on WoW Radio. Get in your topics for the illusion of choice, folks. Yes, the illusion of choice. The Murloc at gmail.com. That is the Murloc at gmail.com. And I'll be right back after this. Enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, introducing the Warcraft champion of the world, the Ganker! I'm a level 60, you're a level 2. That's not gonna stop me from annihilating you. Well, everybody hates me, but you're envious inside. Sure, you'd love to kill me, but you know I'll skin your hide. 'Cause I'm the Ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. Ha ha! 'Cause I'm the Ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. You know it, baby, I'm the Ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. I'm the Ganker and I'm coming for you. Ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. Ha ha ha! How about verse 2? You better keep an eye out when you're in Ashenvale. The second that you see me, you'll start to scream at will. You might run pretty quickly, but my epic mount will fly. So please do me a favor, tell the spirit healer hi. 'Cause I'm the Ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. I'm the Ganker and you're going down. The Ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. You're next, baby. Ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. You heard what I said, it's about that time, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, and I'm coming for you. You know it, you love it, and now it's time for what everybody's been waiting for. How about a little Ganker guitar solo? That's the way we do it, baby. And now, for the dramatic finale. Get ready. So you're in the Alliance, well, I am in the Horde. Hope you don't mind if I see fit to cut your spinal cord. You know there's no escaping, and that may make you frown. But nobody is safe, you see, when the Ganker is in town. 'Cause I'm the Ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. I'm the Ganker and I'm coming for you. Ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. I'm the Ganker and I'm coming for you. Ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you. I'm the Ganker, baby. Ganker, yeah, and I'm coming for you.
So yeah, I'm pretty quiet on Vent, you know? Kinda laid back.
Oh my god, you noobs! DPS the hands!
Just like to chill out, kick back, relax, raid with my friends. No worries, no stress.
How is that even possible? Are you 7 different shades of stupid? Move out of the fire!
It's important to make sure my orders come through loud and clear. I'm a bit, shy. I'm not particularly loud or anything. My last event server was really poor quality.
Tank it, for heaven's sakes! Tank it! How can you be so monumentally freaking terrible?
Well, I discovered UGT Ventrilo servers. Amazing quality, great prices, and they're so reliable. It was perfect in every way. I mean, I was a pretty calm guy before, and now I've got even less reasons to worry.
Why? Why do I raid with you people?
Why not get one of your own? UGTservers.com. That's UGTservers.com. You'll be glad that you did. It's really helped me find my zen, you know?
Yes, indeed, folks, last section of the show, and it's the illusion of choice. And this week's illusion of choice topic here on Blue Plz on WCRadio.com is this. It comes from Hornshade of Quelfalassi, and he says this. Dear Mr. Biscuit, rather than the usual discussions about the difficulty of raids, I'd like to ask you for your opinion on the structure of the PvE endgame. At the moment, in the current expansion, all of the tiered content is located in single long raids only. In TBC, Tier 4 was split over various raids, e.g. Tier 5 level gear over SSC TK, and in Vanilla WoW it was all mixed. It started off with various raids and ended up with all Tier 3 in Nax. Do you prefer the TBC structure or the Wrath of the Lich King structure? Personally, I prefer separating the gear over many shorter raids. One of my reasons for this includes the fact that the guilds could split their raid time between multiple locations, e.g. 1 week on one week on another. All the other reasons I have forgotten. Well done, you've got the other reasons. At the moment, my guild is up to Yogg-Saron 25, and I'm losing interest in raiding a lot faster than in TBC, where there was more variety. In Old WoW, pretty much every week is exactly the same, and while raids tend to be pretty repetitive week in, week out anyway, at least there was a bit of variation as regards to the location in TBC. The only opposing argument that I could think of was that Blizzard would have to come up with more raids. Oh no, not more raids! Unless they manage to split a big raid into 2 with one final boss each, and they are rapidly running out of lore characters to kill off. So, do you think that Blizz should keep this structure into the next expansion, or go back to the TBC structure? I make it no secret that my best time in raiding was during TBC, and I still believe that TBC raiding counters are superior to a lot of the stuff that has been in Wrath so far. Admittedly, there are a lot of good fights in Old War, but there are also a lot of good fights in TBC. Now, the structure is not something that we usually talk about, and I think it is worthy of discussion. Here's the thing, they've released 2 massive, stonking, great raiding counters. Those are the big meat. We've got 2 dungeons that have got like 14 bosses in each. Now, is it just me, or does that seem an awful lot in comparison to previous raiding counters? I remember a very long instance back in the day. It went by the name of Molten Core, and I'm sick of the goddamn sight of the thing. It was huge. Now, of course, they've learned from that, and they don't have stupid respawning trash and all crap like that. But big long instances and having those be the only real content that you get is not a good idea. We found ourselves, while I was playing in Lethe before I retired from raiding for a while, that going to VOA was actually one of the highlights of the week because it broke up the monotony of going to the same damn instance night in, night out. I think the best example of, and this is after the fixes, the best example of a tier at any point in WoW was Tier 5. I think that was the best set of content. SSC and TK, 2 instances one of which was quite small, contained 4 bosses, the other which contained about 6 or 7. They were both just the right size. I liked both of those instances a lot. I think they were really cool. I had some of my best times in there. I think Vash was an amazing encounter. I really do. I think Leothorus was an amazing encounter. I think that, even though it was a little bit simplistic, Void Reave was an amazing encounter. Kael'thas, pre-nerf, was an amazing encounter. Those were not massive, great, stonky instances. Those were actually quite small. 4 bosses, not particularly big. 6 bosses, in the case of SSC. What's so wrong with that, I might ask you? I don't think there's anything. I think the ability to split your time between multiple locales is good. Yeah? It's like, okay, tonight we're gonna go clear TK. And we can do that, and it's really not that hard. As in, we don't have to spend a massive amount of time in here. Or, say, we are trying to kill Kael'thas, but we've got SSC on farm. Okay, we clear SSC in a night, and then we've got the rest of the week on TK. That's fair enough. Having that variety in there, and obviously you went back to kill stuff like Magtheridon and Grawl and things like that, is actually kind of important. You'd be surprised at the amount of variety there was in regards to raiding with TBC, and indeed at tier 6 level content, you were faced with 3 raids. Obviously, you had Sunwell at the end of it, which was arguably tier 6.5-ish level content. It dropped tier 6 level gear. You had Mount Hyjal, and then of course you had Black Temple. And you were working on this stuff at the same kind of time. When you went up your tier, you wouldn't just be faced with one new dungeon. It's like you don't beat Nax and then just go on to Ulduar. No. It was more like you beat SSC and TK, and now you've moved up to 2 new dungeons. And you get to split your time between the 2. So people got to see newer stuff. And if they were sick to the back teeth for seeing one, it's just like, okay, we'll go and do the other one then. We'll give you a bit of a break from this. Let's go do that. No one wants to do it with Nax these days because it's been killed. It's done. It's done to death. We've seen these encounters for months and months and months. We're bored. I actually liked the fact that they had at least 2 dungeons on each tier of content. And I think that's something actually that Wrath is suffering from. This mind-numbing monotony and the grindy linearity of the whole thing. The just inevitability of saying, great, we get to the next tier of content, it's 1 dungeon. And in the case of Ulduar, it's really freaking huge. Which is fine, but let's face it, there's not that much variety in the bosses. They're good, don't get me wrong, but there's also not that much variety in the locales either. A lot of the dungeon looks the same. There are exceptions. Don't get me wrong, there are exceptions, but a lot of it does look the same. And that can get really boring, in the same way that Molten Core was boring to look at because it all looked the same. You don't design instances that way. Nax was great to look at because they changed it around. Even though it was all, hey, undead, it's different flavours of undead. Can't complain. But then, of course, we're sick to the back teeth of Nax now anyway. So yeah, TBC, the design and the structure of the raid content was just plain better. It was. The way that you went through the content was better. It may have been less friendly for casuals or whatever, but when Sith would have had sympathy for those people. Who cares? They can work their way through via knowledge and skill like everybody else. I would like to see that, especially if you're going to develop smaller instances that don't have as much work put into them. The Colosseum, prime example. Why is it that we can't get 2 raid instances? Why do we only get 1 with 5 bosses in it? Yeah, we get a 5-man, but yeah, the raiders will do it once and then that'll be done with it. Maybe there's a nice item in there, maybe there isn't. There's supposed to be one encounter in there that's pretty interesting, whereby you fight the ghosts or visions of previous raid bosses. That'll be pretty cool. Like a level 80 Hogger is actually in there, so that's kind of exciting. But aside from that, well, hey, it's 1 dungeon. And you can argue, but it's got all these different modes. It's still the same dungeon. It's still the same bosses with slightly different mechanics and slightly buffed damage and HP. Give us more. Give us more things to do. Raiding was so much more interesting back there for that reason and that reason alone. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a few things to say before we go on to the shout-outs. First thing is first. Storm Tamer has organised a little contest. And the contest is to submit stings. Yes, indeed, stings. Now, I will download this sting and play it for you. It's kind of cool. It's by Chaos Smurf. This is just to give you a little example, and you can win yourself some of the unique WoW TCG tabards as well as party grenades to annoy the hell out of everybody in the auction house. Just a couple of little casual prizes. And this sting was created by Chaos Smurf. This will give you an idea of what a sting is. So I'm going to pause the music and let you check this out.
This is Chaos Smurf, WoW Idol Loser, and you're listening to WoW Radio at wcradio.com.
There, that's an example of what a sting is. It's just a little bumper that we put at the end of our breaks just to say, hey, it's WoW Radio. So if you can come up with anything creative, then feel free to submit it. There's information on the front page at WCRadio.com, so go check it out. Also, there will apparently be a special mystery guest on... But wait, there's Law tomorrow. You should probably check that out. I have no idea who this mystery guest is. Not a clue. That's because it's a mystery. They didn't even bother to tell me. Also, the Friday night free-for-all will be happening tonight at very, very late time. You want to check out the front page to find out when that's happening. And it'll actually be hosted by Pride, who will invariably tell us about the lore of the game as opposed to anything actually useful about what's going on. So yeah, go and check that out. And one final thing, we are still doing our planet-side invasion. Those of you who maybe want something a little bit different to WoW, it's the massively multiplayer online FPS planet-side. We have a ton of people playing. We are doing our next operation tomorrow at 1900 British Standard Time. That is 2 PM EST. You can download the trial, check out our forums at WCRadio.com, click the PlanetSide Invasion forum to find out where to get the free trial for the game, 14 days free trial. And download it at greyfalcon.net/psinstall.zip. That's greyfalcon.net/psinstall.zip. My name in game is MPTK. Log on at around that time. I will be around. We're playing on the Terran Republic on the Gemini server. I will be sparring in the broadcast chat to get your invites to the outfit. Come roll tanks with us. Come roll over people. Blow shiz up, as it were. It's very therapeutic. Right, we are at the end of the show, folks, so it's time for shout-outs. Email the Murloc@gmail.com. That is the Murloc@gmail.com. Also, you can send your shout-outs in via IRC. PM them to me. IRC@mmIRC.com, #WoW Radio. Alternatively, tweet me at TotalBiscuit. That is at TotalBiscuit on Twitter. And I may or may not read them out. So here we go. A shout-out to my guild Cynic on Trollbane EU. That's from Dotted. Wow, there are still guilds on Trollbane EU. I got out of there as soon as humanly possible. Seriously, that server was terrible. Hey, TB, can I get a shout-out to Duratar Hardcore on Boulderfist EU for being awesome? Well, yes, you can in fact get that. And a quick shout-out has to go to my son, who is 6 years old today. That's Ryan, so congratulations, you are 6 years old. Ding, and so forth. You will soon be able to learn new skills. A shout-out to my friend who managed to kill Mimeron tonight, and a shout-out to me for not being able to log into IRC 6th show in a row because of, well, apparently something. Well, that's very descriptive, thank you very much. Great show as always. That's from Orhid on Steam Wheel Cartel EU. That's one of those RPs. Dirty. A shout-out to DJ Timekiller for being my Hon buddy. That's from Slamon. Hey, TB, you want to give a shout-out to Gaia, Frampo, and Royd in my guild Rapture on Sourfang US. Shout out to Dragonmore EU from Kanzidai, and shout out to Shattered Twilight that disbanded, and to what the hell's that? Cyanol and Aracus and Ralan. That's from Aracos. A shout out to my adventuring and general companion Pale Princess. That's from Mr. NNJ. And shout out to my guild Order of the White Tower on Featherman US. We are celebrating our 5th anniversary come this January. A shout out to me for being elite and drop in. Shout out to Aragos for listening. That's from Shinoda. A shout out to Sickit on Thunderhorn. Clearly 1850 2v2 rating, which apparently now doesn't matter anymore. Gonna get a shout out to Chaotic on Fizzcrank. Stay out of the damn clouds, noob. Yeah, it's pretty terrible. Can I get a shout out to Killer Baboon Troops on Shattered Hand EU for finally downing Firefighter and getting the rusted Proto-Drake. Did you exploit the Judgment of Light? Did you? We shall accuse you. You didn't put a video up, so clearly you're cheating. I'd just like to give a shout out to myself for finally hitting level 80 after way too long. That's from Kalashin of Zulu Guild of Deathorak. Always a cool name. I like Deathorak. I think that's pretty awesome. Can I get a shout out to me for my 18th birthday today and for getting the Insane last night? What? Someone actually has that? God, go play another game. Go play PlanetSide with us. It's more fun. A shout out to Majus for being the best class ever. Shout out to me for shouting out from the restroom. What? That's from Brot. I am terrified by that idea. You know, but bear in mind, as someone that actually tweets from the lavatory, though I can't really complain. Can I get a shout out to BioWare for taking Mythic under their wing? That's from Mortonot. Well, yes, I am expecting to see the wonders of Warhammer Sonic Brotherhood coming up every day now. Ladies and gentlemen, I am done. Yes, indeed. I'm spent! My name is TotalBiscuit, this has been Blue Plz, and one final shout out must go to Exodus. Congratulations for getting your first world first in the most dishonest way possible and shaming the entire American raiding community in the process. Well done! Very well done. Oh, and of course, yes, you couldn't do it without crying your eyes out.
This is what you crybaby young players need now, is a little pat on the butt so you know you're getting a good job. That has to motivate you. How about the feeling of not getting embarrassed? How about that, you young guns out?
Yes. Good night. You have been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Plz, a show that airs exclusively on WCRadio.com on Fridays at 8 p.m. British Standard Time. That's 3 p.m. EST. You can check out our archives on our website at WCRadio.com and subscribe to our RSS feeds. Don't forget to rate and review us using iTunes, and if you wish to leave constructive criticism, that is always appreciated. Head over to WCRadio.com/forum and post in the threads there. Thank you for listening.